Well, that was a little brief. Okay, so now we're going to look at profiles of the truth in the context of protecting the truth. I'm just going to say a word about protecting the truth right up front. I know that we are stewards of the truth. I know that it's because we know the truth in a world where the truth has gotten all messed up in false representations of Christ and God and the gospel, that the truth has to be protected in the sense that we can't let any lie come in and offset what we understand to be this great purity of the truth. On the other hand, if you think about what's happened over time, 2,000 years, who would you say is really in control of protecting the truth? Well, that's an answer that has a question that's kind of obvious, isn't it? If God isn't in control of the protection of His own Word, then we are helplessly involved in trying to protect it. And if God is protecting His truth, how can it ever be unprotected? So think of what's happened over time. Christ was the Word made flesh. He never wrote anything down. Paul and the other disciples wrote a few things down which have become the second part of God's Word where we're concerned. That was translated from Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic into the Latin Vulgate, and there in the language of the Latin Vulgate, it rested, God's Word rested in the bowels of a false church for about 1,000 years until a point came where God decided it would be printed first in German, then in English, and distributed worldwide more than any other publication, current or historical. So how does that happen? How does a false church protect God's Word for 1,000 years, only then to have it released and distributed for the end of time, for the last 400 years, as God's Word in so many different versions and languages and embodiments that you can't miss it. It's everywhere present. It's the one ubiquitous message in the entire world. So, and where is the truth of God's Word? It's in His Word. So it's there, even though many people distort it and it's not understood and it's not even cared about or looked at by many. It's still there. And it was there when Dr. Thomas started reading his Bible with the intent of finding it, and it's been there ever since for each of us who, in our own way, have constructed the truth not from people around us, but from our direct contact with God's Word. So how much, in the context of God's control, do any of us really need to protect the truth? We know it's a responsibility we have on, let's say, a local level, with respect to our own treatment of the truth, and acknowledgement of it, and use of it. But the truth, in the end, this was predestined from the foundation of the world. There will be a truth, and in the end, it would result in a people drawn from the soil of this earth who were animated by faith to become sons and daughters of God, to the point where they will, everything that breathes will praise the Lord and be a part of God who is then all in all. Is there anything that can frustrate that plan? Was there anything that messed it up through our negligence? Do you think our negligence can stay God's hands? If He controls the kingdoms of men and whoever rules in them and none can stay His hand, how much more does He control His own Word and its truth? So, that's on one side of the question. The other side of the question is, well, how do we respond to that? Well, we respond to it by being faithful, responsible stewards of His Word, which brings us to profiles of the truth. When we made our transition back in 1999, our purpose essentially was in protecting the truth as it would apply to our preaching. The whole thing came up in Norfolk when we had the first arranging board meeting of the year. We had been separated from by some brethren who did not understand us and left our company. And we were in the doldrums. And we said, so what do you do when you are in the doldrums? Well, one of the things you can do is get up and get some exercise, breathe some fresh air, open the windows, let sunlight in, and work with light instead of sitting in a dark room. So we said, how do we do that? Well, the answer to that question would be we can preach the gospel. So let's organize a program this year. We'll get up, start moving, start feeling better. Maybe if we get to work, we'll feel happy. And I believe this is fundamentally true. Get to work, you'll feel a little bit better. You like what you're doing especially. So that's what we set out to do, and then somebody raised their hand. There's 3 people in this meeting. They raised their hand and they said, but what's going to happen if it works? What do you mean? It can happen if we preach the truth and somebody responds to what we're preaching and they get baptized. And they come in here and they say, so there are all those Christadelphians in the world, and why aren't we connected with them? What are we going to tell them? In other words, can we preach a gospel of unity with God to people who come into our midst and then recognize that we are not in unity with each other? We got to solve, we have 2 problems to solve. That one and the other one which comes first, our relationship with brethren worldwide. So it was with a view toward the work and preaching the gospel in a dark world that we engaged in our unity effort, and in essence that meant that our purpose in unity was for the protection of the truth and any misunderstanding that might arise from our weaknesses. That was as a result of Jesus having said, go into all the world and preach the gospel. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. They raise it up, and it gives light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So, just in one of the studies that I did, we took a look at this picture where Central Fellowship was concerned. Those are real stars in real locations where there are Christadelphians in the world today. At least this was the case when I made this a few years ago. It's a little bit different, and I'll probably do a little bit more, but that's the distribution of these little candles that are the truth, and the light of that truth in a dark world. Ours is right there, where the arrow is pointing. This is Norfolk right here. And the rest of this is the work, essentially, of Central Christadelphians worldwide. This is not the work of the unamended community. Our brethren in the unamended community would love to help, and are trying to help as best they can right now. These lights worldwide have come from the appreciation of that need of brethren in Central Fellowship who learned other languages, traveled to Jamaica, Africa, and spoke their languages, learned even Swahili to preach to some of the people of that people. So all of this happens as a result of our understanding that we have to have one spirit. And what does that mean? One spirit. What does that mean to you? I'll tell you what it means to me. I looked it up with reference to the Spirit of Christ. We are told that we must be one spirit with Christ. It means of the same mind, because that the original word essentially means mental disposition. So our disposition involves an understanding of truth, the application of truth, the inculcation of stories and lessons from God's Word by God's inspiration for our doctrine, reproof, and instruction in righteousness and correction. And our behavior is also embodied in the mental disposition of Christ. Indeed, our relationships, our marriages, the way we raise our children, the way we respond to differences of views within the ecclesia, the way we even manage disparity of the kind that we're speaking about today, all comes into being of one spirit. And what I think we've recognized where we should be one is we have the same spirit. That spirit is evident. We can't resist it, as a matter of fact. Because it's the Spirit of Christ. How could someone be applied to His Word and not have some part of that Spirit? But this is where that Spirit really works. In our own history of our community, What is it that made 70,000 Christadelphians come together in the 50s, through the 50s and the 90s, who had formerly been separated by disparities of doctrines? These are the Christadelphians that came together. 1953, Berean Central, the UK and the US. 1957, Suffolk Street and Central, in the UK. 1958, Shield and Central, in Australia. 1991, unamended and Central on the West Coast, limited. 1996, about 300 Dawn and Central in the US and the UK. And in 1999, Nowcase, unamended and Central in Virginia. There are a lot of people who formerly were separated, but coalesced like a cloud, like the little water droplets in a cloud. Come together almost against the laws of nature, like the droplets in a cloud, and have become a great cloud of witnesses in this world. Because they coalesced, because they put unity before themselves, because they recognized that there would be a better testimony that God sent His Son into this world, and the net result of that is 70,000 Christadelphians in growth. In other words, after understanding that they shared one faith and one spirit, they put oneness first before everything else. That's the Spirit of Christ, of His body. And it should be our emulation of that same Spirit. Why did they do that? They did that for the same reason Paul spoke of, and we mentioned this several times now. They recognized that division inhibits and betrays the gospel message. It can frustrate and confuse the gospel message. Which brings us to the concept of Jesus having prayed in John 17 that we would be one body. The purpose, again, to repeat it, is that the world, not so I can feel good on Sunday, not so that we can know we're breaking bread together. Look at us, breaking bread together. We must love one another. That's a good thing, and I don't mean to diminish it by tone. That's all good. That's not what Jesus focused on. He focused on the blind of this world, who couldn't see, who somehow would see as a result of our unity, whose eyes would be opened because we make a testimony that is unnatural. That means it's spiritual. That means it is in the same Spirit of Christ. Once again, this is the point of that. Two fellowships don't make one body as the image of Christ is presented in the world. And we are very much about the image of Christ, who is the image of His Father. So I remember when I was young, and I think this is close to what it looked like in the 60s. There were about 3,500 Christadelphians in Central Fellowship. I don't think that was aware of the Bereans. I'm not sure about the numbers there, but as I remember in my inquiries, in the 60s there were about 3,500 fighting in the Central Fellowship in North America, and about 3,500 in the Advocate Fellowship. Here's the way it looks today. About 4,600 brethren in the Central Fellowship, and about 1,900, somewhere between 16 and 1,900 in the Advocate Fellowship. And I apologize if my numbers are a little off. It's the best I can do given the information that I have. But what happened? One grew and the other shrank. But why was that? The principal reason is one grew, which is its fruit. That growth is fruit. One grew because it put the focus on the work, and it put focus on brethren coming together so that they could work over and above everything else. John Carter was instrumental in producing most of that growth and distribution, but then these other fellowships that had all coalesced together that I just listed were part of that growth. If there's no interest in that work, that extroverted work to the world, where our testimony to the world is the key objective, there's no interest in it, well then what were they doing? Circling the wagons and protecting the truth? Are we protecting the truth? That the truth is not being presented to the world? Is the truth being protected in our little stand where we're trying to get through the week? get along with each other. That results in a loss of faith, as was exemplified in the Norfolk Ecclesia over the past 50 years with those 70 Sunday school students. If this is happening on a community-wide level, it's not a healthy thing. So let's look at one faith as it applies to Christadelphians worldwide. In the composition of Christadelphians worldwide, who now recognize themselves to be in one faith, in an agreement under one statement of faith that works with the imperfections of that are unavoidable in human interaction. These are the fellowships that came together. And this is their distribution. Central has about 38% Christadelphians. Suffolk Street about 20%. Independent in the U.S. are about 2%. Korean about 22%. Shield about 15%. Old Pass and Dawn about 1% each. So that's the distribution of Christadelphians worldwide, which makes up about 97% of Christadelphians on the earth today. Who are these people? These are people who understand Christ's faith. Put unity over themselves. Put unity over the name of their ecclesia. They put unity over passages. They put unity first, because Jesus prayed that they would be one. They coalesced. They became 97% of the body of Christ in the world today. If you were to boil that down to Christ's command, they put brotherly love first. And it's not an easy love. This was so attractive to us when we understood it that we could not resist company, fellowship, support, strength, our brethren worldwide. We needed them, but they were helpless to bring us in. They couldn't create a project that resulted in a sufficient level of engineering to enable us to come in. We had to be submissive in order to do it. So we put ourselves secondary to the first principle of submission to Christ. We joined, and the net result has been fruit in Norfolk, growth, focus on the gospel, and association with brethren on every dream we would have, the experience of which we are enjoying today. If we look at how this occurred and what remains, there's another picture of fellowship. We have this huge fellowship of 97% in the middle of Christadelphians, understood as the central fellowship, which is really, this term gets thrown around rather superficially in my view, but if you want to know the mended fellowship, that's the central fellowship. It's made of all these other ones who have mended their ways. But on the top side, there are groups like Dawn, Berean, and Old Paths who have the door shut to Central. Central, they're not in fellowship with Central because they would prefer to the arrow to point outwardly. On the other side is the real confusion. There's the unamended community, which has two parts to it. Unity-minded brethren, about half of them, about 800 or 900 of them, and advocate-minded brethren, about 800 or 900 of those, who want absolutely nothing to do with central fellowship or unity. They say, leave us alone. They are held together inexorably. They are trapped together by circumstance under a name. Now let me now at this point explain to you why it's so difficult for them to change. As we said before, there's a lot more in a name than the name itself, or the letters of a statement of faith. However, if you take letters BUSF, most people have never read all the verses that are in either of the statement of faith. They've only, if they've read anything, they've read the clauses. And these brethren simply have embodied their entire life in the truth in the letters BUSF, because that was where they came in, or that was what they were born into. Their whole identification of everything in their life that relates to God, His Son, the sacrifice of Christ, breaking of bread, is connected to those letters. it essentially puts more on them than they can bear. Ask them to change that perception and assign all of that meaning to another set of letters. Doesn't matter what the statements of faith say. They simply have, it's like the label on the bottle. The substance of what they believe is connected to the label, and the label represents everything. To change it means I have now lost everything I've ever believed in. If you take the U and replace it with an A, this is the way perception and identity really works. Change it, and everything I've ever believed is gone. This works the same way on both sides. No matter who you are. Now some people can kind of understand that and go around it because of understanding it. Most people don't understand that. They don't think something as trivial as 4 letters can represent my entire life in the truth, but they do. So the question is, how reasonable is it to expect people to put a burden on people that is more than they can bear? Now, that happened in Israel when people had a rough time changing the law to Christianity for the same reason. The law was everything they ever believed. When it was abolished, what do you mean? What's this new thing? I said that's my whole life. My grandma, I can tell you 14 generations back how I'm connected to the law. Don't tell me it's abolished. This is the way it works in human perception, and it may be wrong, it may be inadequate, it may be superficial, but it is real. And it is a parameter that we have to work with if we are to be effective in matters of unity between brethren. We have to recognize that people have assigned more meaning than what exists on the face of things in either the label or its content, that is the whole statement of faith. That's why it almost doesn't even matter what it says. You can give great disquisitions on the meaning of the statement of faith. It doesn't matter. When I asked for a show of hands as to who in our ecclesia had read the unamended statement of faith, my mother's and my father-in-law raised his hand. This would probably be true if you went across the board, amended and unamended. How many people actually read it, and if they've read it, how many use it for anything? And what's even worse, we did ask for a show of hands if people read all the verses in the statement of faith. My mother was the only one. My father had taken the time to read all the verses. All right, let's do it. How many of you have read all the verses in the statement of faith? Raise your hand. Yes, that's almost half. Very good. Better than an Norfolk ecclesia. But the reason is, it's just really very fine print, isn't it? They're just verses. We printed them all out and read them for a Sunday school class over a period of time. We were astonished at the way they correlated. Had to be the work of Robert Roberts. He really thought about the sequence. Because the way they read, they actually connect up even though they were not in the same exact context. They flow. Just an extraordinary work, I think it is. But anyway, that being said, what you need to know about this illustration is that what is confusing in any effort of unity is half the unamended community is a split personality. Half of it is interested in fellowship and can't understand why they can't break bread, and the other half wants nothing to do with unity or breaking bread with Central Philadelphians. How do you work with a community like that? Especially because they're like Siamese twins. They're connected together, and they feel like if you take them apart, the body will die. They also have an issue of conscience where they have told us, well, we're not going to cut our brethren off, because if we cut our brethren off in a unity effort, Christ will cut us off at the kingdom. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but to them, if they recognize somebody as a brother, even though he doesn't recognize them, and they cut him off, they are culpable to the judgment seat. And they feel like, because you didn't receive the least of one of these, my brethren, you have not received me. On that principle, whether it's understood or not, does that matter? Think of the burden it places on them, on their conscience. This is what we need to be sensitive to if we are to be effective in unity efforts. The burden that we have put on them, in some respects, is more than they or their fathers can bear. That is a consideration, as it was in the times of Antioch and Jerusalem. Very hard to figure out a community that has a split personality. Which one are you talking to at any given time? What group? How are they connected up? What is it that So this is the central fellowship worldwide, and here's the point of this. One body makes the kind of testimony about Christ to the world that enables the gospel to grow at its maximum, with its maximum intent. To the extent that there's a division among us, the testimony is weakened. So that's another one of the reasons, besides the fact that there are brethren we know who should be in fellowship with us. I think this reason overrides everything. That's important, but this is more important. That our testimony, our work with Christ's gospel is where he wants us to focus our energy. And if we are distracted in that, and our energy is focused elsewhere, to the same extent his work is not getting done. We're all about his work, aren't we? He said, go in all the world, preach the gospel. Is that what we're doing? We're trying with all our hearts. We know the value of it. We want to remove everything that it is done. As individuals and as ecclesias. So let's look at the ecclesia, the house of God. Jesus said in John 14, my Father's house are many venues. That means some versions say rooms, some say mansions. Mansions not applicable in this more of a churchy, Christian kind of thing. It's really many venues. And this is what that looks like if you think of it in terms of a body that is working in the world. There are all these ecclesias, but they are organized. They are organized into a definable entity. One body means one gospel when you start preaching. Two bodies don't represent one gospel. That sounds like a disparity. One gospel from apostolic preaching is clearest, again, with one statement of faith. So for a century now, the BASF is there as a representation, a reasonable representation of that one faith, and it's there by mutual consent. We are self-organized, even on an inter-ecclesial level, on a global level. We're self-organized because we have no earthly hierarchy. Our hierarchy, as we all know, is our high priest in heaven, who is our head, and we are only his body. This is actually the model that Paul gave us in his explanation of all that. So let's look at the statement of faith. There's one note here that I have myself that I don't want to. Some people say, well, why do we even have to have a statement of faith if it causes so much trouble? I think just use the Bible. I don't know why it's not obvious to everyone, but it's obvious to me anyway, if I'm in my profile right now, that we need a statement of faith because there are so many Christian denominations in the world. It's obvious, isn't it? They all use the same Bible. Some even hold to what we do. The King James is probably the best version. These are false. There's two huge false churches, Catholicism and Protestantism, and among them they have many denominations, all claiming to preach the gospel, all claiming to believe in the one God and his Son Jesus Christ, who in this case is also one, and so on and so forth, with nothing but, for the most part, Greek mythology that has new terms that come from the Bible. So how can we even stand out of this world without a statement of faith? So that's why we need a statement of faith, because we have to differentiate what we believe, what we understand as being true, from these other denominations in the world. And that's why we can't make a provision for denominations of Christadelphians to come together, because nobody would know what that means. Once you go there, you say, well, if we have different denominations of Christadelphians, will our children not say, how is that any different from having different denominations with other Christians? That's already starting to be a sentiment that is expressed in our midst as Christadelphians. So the reason we need one statement of faith representing one body in this world is because of the existence of so many denominations. That the only way we can clarify this is in the clarity of a single representation of our faith. I'd like to read you a series of statements, and we're not ready to go into some letter-like print here, that editors of the Christadelphian and prominent brothers have made since 1903 concerning the statement of faith. There are several ecclesias in England who have different but equivalent statements. There is no reason why this should not be so. Neither is there any reason why an ecclesia should not adopt the Birmingham statement if it sees fit. What is wanted to secure unity is uniform faith and obedience that is only to be developed by the Word of God and patient continuance while doing. No ecclesia has the authority to issue a document called the Statement of Faith. And that's because we have no central authoritative headquarters. We don't recognize the practicality of that observation, which was from C.C. Walker in 1903. Look at what John Carter said about it. Some would insist on all the ecclesias using the same statement. There may be good arguments for this, but they are not conclusive. For one thing, we cannot maintain ecclesial autonomy and at the same time demand the adoption of a particular statement. In any case, who has the right to demand it? Again and again, the Christadelphian it has been pointed out that the Christadelphian statement does not exist. There is no universal statement. We feel there is a danger of exalting the statement of faith above the gospel itself. It is true that it makes free, and only when statements are recognized as defining the truth are they to be being rightly used. Now, I have to tell you something interesting about Norfolk Ecclesia. When we moved into the Central Fellowship, no one asked us but what we believed. A little bit of irony in that. Nobody asked us what we believed. I went about saying what I believed, and maybe that's part of the reason we didn't get asked, because I'm pretty clear on it, but nobody asked us. Another thing, interesting, we were using the BUSF at the time in our ecclesia, and nobody asked us to change it. We talked to Washington, we talked to Petersburg, we told Petersburg, well, we're using the BUSF, is that okay? And there was no comment, nobody even cared what statement of faith we were using in Norfolk. What we did after 3 years was change to the BASF because we wanted a record of consistency. We wanted our members to see themselves as being consistently associated with Christadelphians worldwide, and the BUSF could potentially create confusion, so we changed our statement of faith, our ecclesial statement of faith, to the BASF. It didn't make any difference to anybody. What we did from the start, though, was recognize something that will come in subsequent statements and to read, and that is that the BASF is sufficient for interecclesial. It's the one statement of faith that draws around which all of us coalesce. So this is what Alfred Nichols said in 1971. We agree that the doctrines to be believed and taught by us without reservations are the first principles of the one faith as revealed in the Scriptures. Of these, the two principal statements in use among us, with positive and negative clauses, the commandments of Christ, give a true definition in the light of our agreed understanding set out below. Statements other than the Birmingham amended statement of faith have always been regarded as acceptable amongst ecclesias in the Central Fellowship, provided that they uphold the same Bible teaching. And as you know, they may or they may not. In Norfolk they did, elsewhere in the community, they don't. They stand for quite a substantial difference. Let's go about that. So Harry Tennant, along with Alfred Nichols and Michael Ashton, put this together in 1995. It is recognized that as a basis of fellowship, there can only be one faith. Right? We all agree with that, doesn't matter where you're from. For historical reasons, the statement of faith of the Birmingham ecclesias was regarded as the touchstone of interecclesial fellowship. Since the statement of faith has always been the basis of fellowship, the Birmingham amended statement of faith became the definition of the interecclesial basis and has been so regarded in all previous reunion negotiations. Nevertheless, historical position has always been maintained, and the sensitivities of ecclesias or groups toward their own statements respected by prefacing the reunion documents covering the specific issues formerly in dispute with a statement of general beliefs with the following words, or their equivalent, immediately after the declaration that the Birmingham amended statement of faith is a true definition of the one faith. It is agreed, however, that ecclesias of both fellowships may continue to use such statements as are current among them and supplement them where necessary with the clauses here set out. So if we look at that, we recognize a couple of simple things that are necessary for us to recognize that we all believe the same thing, basically. And that is, if we have one statement of faith that acts as a touchstone of interecclesial fellowship, that's our assurance. It's a basis of trust. When anyone can accept that, and if an ecclesia says, I can accept that as the basis of interecclesial, our relationship to central, that's enough. That should be enough of an acceptance because anyone who follows what we were talking about in the first section this morning, the teaching of J.D. Andrew, uses the unamended statement of faith to justify and understand them, won't have anything to do with the Birmingham United Statement of faith. So there's your assurance. You need assurance that an ecclesia can accept the Birmingham amended statement of faith. There's no risk of any positive doctrine. Then the issue moves to one of fellowship practice, and that still has to be resolved on the basis of conscience and trust. I think a good basis of trust, though, is the test as to whether or not somebody will accept this as a future ecclesial basis. I'd like to show you in recent efforts some of the realities of fellowship that we've experienced in Norfolk. And this is going to be an uncomfortable part for me and for you, because I'm going to have to read you some letters that are not very nice. And I have a point in doing this, and I'll make a point after I've read some of this information. Do a little bit of reading, but you need to understand something about the unamended community. It's split. It's not the same here as it is there, not only here in Texas. I mean, there's this and there's that. There's here and there's there. There's them and there's us. And these two groups are in the same community by circumstance over time. This is 4 generations later. It's kind of hard to just change all that in an effort. And that's what we're facing. So these are the letters. This is an excerpt from a letter from Arkansas Bible School Committee, an unamended Bible School Committee, to another unamended ecclesia that wanted to use the Bible school for a different sort of purpose, but because of their allowances, this is what they got from the Bible school. No fellowship in Arkansas for this UA. These are both unamended. The Arkansas Bible School believes the following organizations or activities are not scripturally sound, nor are they compatible with the fellowship policies outlined by the Arkansas Bible School Constitution. The Greensburg Christian Foundation, Operation of Messence, breaking bread with members of CDAF, breaking bread with members of Central and Amended Christian Body, breaking bread with brethren who are divorced and remarried. That's the position of the Arkansas Bible School. Does that sound particularly offensive to you? In some experiences, not in some circles, but this is very much present in certain, in fact, other side, other